Welcome to another edition of 805 Sports Talk. This is our 53rd show, and today it's just me and Lorenzo, and we're going to get started. Yeah, we're both Fresno State Bulldogs. We do have a good time putting this show together, but this week we're getting started with what's been a hot topic so far this spring season is the Righetti baseball team, and they had an exciting game Tuesday at home against Atascadero. Many people who have been following Righetti, they start out 13-1 overall, and they have swept 3 straight series in PAC 8 League baseball. And Tuesday they were hosting Atascadero. They were up 3-0 early on, then it was 4-1. Finally Atascadero rallied in the 6th and 7th innings, and they went ahead 5-4. It looked like Righetti was going to suffer its first league loss. It looked like Matt Sauer was possibly, going to have one of his worst performances of the season. But there were some late game heroics, especially with Tanner Sampson getting a game tying hit, and then RJ Clayton came up with the huge 3-run home run that ended the game in walk-off fashion. This is how Tuesday's game ended. Certainly looked like the Warriors are on the verge of suffering their first league loss. But Clayton's huge blast changed all that quickly. The right fielder knew which pitch he wanted, sat on it, and got it, delivering the game-ending blow. How do you feel about that? Team needs you there. You come up big with a 3-run hit. How would you kind of sum up how you feel right now?
I was just trying to get a base hit, score the run. Just kind of speechless right now.
Did you know you got it right when you hit it? It sounded good. Seemed like it was a no-doubter. What went through your mind right when you hit that?
I was just happy that I got the ball up and I could move the runner over.
Okay. What were you looking at? Were you just sitting fastballs, and is that what you got? Were you looking up? What? Talk me through the at-bat there, your approach.
I was in a 3-1 count, and I was just looking for a fastball to get a base hit on, and I just got a nice pitch up.
Rounding the bases, what was that like? You hearing your teammates, you see them waiting for you at home plate. Talk about that, rounding the bases.
It was pretty exciting. Really never done that before, so it was really fun.
Okay, it seems like a lot of teams are coming after you guys with you starting out 9-0. You get down to Atascadero, and to come through like that, how do you feel to make a big hit like that for your team in that kind of situation?
Feels great. It feels great.
That's right, big dog.
Atascadero's a really good team, and I'm just happy we got the win.
Shortstop Tanner Sampson had a big hand in setting up Clayton with this game-tying hit. You guys are down, and you come through in that clutch spot. They walked Rudd in front of you, I think, and then you get that nice hit to tie the game up. What were you thinking there?
That fueled me up a little bit. I was kind of pissed that they walked me, so I was doing all I can do to tie the game up. That's all I was thinking right now, tie the game.
What does it say about the team? You guys start out 9-0, a lot of expectations. You guys have been dominating a lot of teams, and Atascadero rallies, passes you guys up. You guys are down a run. What do you think it says about this team?
We're not ready to lose yet. We want to keep going, see how long we can go with this.
Where did that come from with this team? Is this something you guys...
It all started with the end of last year with that run we had in the playoffs. It just carried on over to this year.
Okay. How important is it to keep this going? You got 2 more games before spring break. You guys got to come out tomorrow, and then you guys got another game Thursday. Is it going to be good to kind of build off this, or put it behind you and just try to get better at it?
We just keep this in the back of our mind, not let it consume everything that we're doing. Just keep playing Righetti baseball and win every game.
So that was probably one of the most memorable endings of a baseball game I've seen in a long time. As a sports writer, sometimes during a game, you'll start thinking about how you're going to write the story. You'll start thinking about the angle, the lead. I'm sure you're familiar with that, Lorenzo. Yeah. And Righetti, I thought we're going to probably angle this story. How are they going to bounce back from the first league loss? Now they have some adversity. How are they going to kind of battle back from that? But they didn't have to worry about that Tuesday with that huge home run from RJ Clayton. It was a lot of fun interviewing him after the game, and seeing the teammates so excited, and there were so many key hits in that game, so many key players who stepped up in the bottom of that 7th inning. You can't forget about Mitchell Bagby, got things going with the double. I mentioned Tanner Sampson's big hit, and of course R.J. Clayton hit a 3-run home run that he absolutely crushed. That was a no-doubter. So that was definitely one of the most memorable games I've seen. And talking to Kenny Kress, who was covering the game for the Prince story, he said that was probably the #1 ending he's ever seen, with such a colossal home run to end that game from R.J. Clayton. It's definitely a game I'll be remembering for a long time, and I'm sure R.J. will be remembering that one as well. There's been some more memorable news on the high school sports front, and that deals with the CIF. Lorenzo, you've been following them. You follow all their little moves, press releases, bylaw changes, and stuff like that. And there was a big one kind of brewing the last couple of weeks, and they finalized it last week, is the CIF athletically motivated transfer rules. Now, can you kind of break that down for us, and what do you think the impacts are going to be of that new change?
Well, I mean, I feel like one big mess is about to happen, not just in this area, but I mean just statewide, because the new rule now states that you can actually transfer for an athletically motivated reason. Now, in the past, if you transfer for an athletic reason, they would either sit you out or for like maybe 30 days, maybe half of the season, or the entire year. Well, that's still in play if you choose to move, or if you choose to not move, from what it looks like. But now, when there's honesty, when the parent or athlete is saying that I want to go here because the football program's better or the water polo program's better, now it's like they could get away with it. But to me, I have several questions still. I mean, the enrollment numbers to me comes to mind. If you're either a public or private school and you get such a high number of transfers, are you in a situation where your school's going to get overcrowded and you might have to turn these people away even if they move near your vicinity? I still have that question. Also, to me, I feel like some of the smaller schools, especially in this area, they're going to be affected, because now a kid, you might have 1 or 2 kids from, say, an Orchid Academy, a VCA, maybe a Coastal Christian. They're going to look at this opportunity and be like, you know what, I could go to Aurora Grande now, or I could go to Lompoc now, and I could go to maybe Santa Maria if I want to play soccer now. And it doesn't have to be because I like their science department or their math department. So I feel like that athletic directors, coaches, and even maybe perhaps some school district administrators, they have to work overtime to ensure that the kids who are athletes in their sports, especially if it's a sport that's struggling, that they're still happy, that they're still content with the direction that their program is going in. Because, I mean, I almost think that there's going to be a pretty big time mess, and you might have head coaches butting heads over, I don't appreciate you taking my kids, or I don't know why my kid would want to leave and venture out. So, I feel like that. I mean, I swing more toward like the bad side of things when it comes to stuff like this.
Okay, so you see it's probably going to lead to more of a negative outcome with this change. Okay.
I feel like there's going to be a mess. Not everybody's going to be happy unless you're a kid who's transferring and a family that's part of that transfer as well. And of course the coaches who are welcoming in those kids. But you're going to, either way you look at it, you're going to have those people who are going to cry foul.
Yeah. I think the intent is okay with what the CIF is trying to do. I think they're trying to be a little more transparent, I guess. They're rewording the bylaw. They're not punishing kids for coming out and saying, the reason I transferred is for athletic reasons. Before they would just be quiet about it, and you would probably skate through fine, and people who would speak up about it and say, it wasn't a good fit for me, I wanted to transfer, those kids might get punished. I know some kids in the northern sections who transferred, and they said they wanted a better fit for the football team. They'll miss parts of their entire, or probably an entire season, if the CIF or the section doesn't agree with the transfer. If they don't allow the transfer, they can miss an entire season. So if a kid transfers, does all the right things, and says, I transferred because the football team was a better fit, now I guess they won't be punished. So I think the intent is good, but we're going to see how it actually plays out.
And I think another thing too is that maybe I should give some credit or some benefit of the doubt. Now there's going to be a lot more honesty, because let's face it, when a kid transfers and says, I like the other school's math department, to me that's a lie, because it sounds like they're picking a university. But when they come out and say, well, I wasn't getting along with the coaches, or I live in a bad area, that's why I want to leave, it's understandable, because they're speaking on honesty. Or if they're saying, well, I don't fit the triple option, or I I feel like that this basketball team is more guard heavy versus, I'm more of a power forward kind of guy. I mean, stuff along that magnitude. So you're going to see a lot more honesty. But again, I feel like this is something that not everybody is going to look at and smile at.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be interesting how this trends, moving forward. It sounds like the CIF is kind of coming back into reality a little bit, because they're pretty much in denial, saying that a lot of kids weren't transferring because of athletic reasons. Kids just transferred because, like you said, they wanted a better educational fit. They're in denial. It's obviously, there's obvious athletic transfers. Now they can come out and say it. So maybe this will, be a good start, a good stepping stone, where the CIF starts basing a lot of their bylaws and regulations and stuff like that on things that actually happen, instead of, their perception of things and something like that. They think transferring is bad. Athletic motivated transfers are bad, so we gotta, outlaw them. But, it happens. Sometimes if it's best for the kid, that's probably what the CIF needs to focus on. Whatever's best for the student athlete, that's what they need to focus on. Sometimes it may not be best for the coach or the school, but that's okay. The CIF is here to get kids to play sports, to, move to the next level, get good grades and all that stuff. So if that's what they're doing, I'm fine with it.
I mean, in Ventura County, that there's a lot of rough schools. I mean, kids who go to Rio Mesa know that they're pretty much at the doorstep of where Colonia, the gang, is. And that's why Rio Mesa has a hard time trying to keep kids, which is understandable, because you're going to have those kids who don't want to be in that atmosphere. Out here, I mean, there's parts of Lompoc and there's even parts of Santa Maria that does have a sketchy side. And you're going to have those parents and those kids who may feel uncomfortable in those surroundings. But I think another thing, too, is that you have those schools that like to adopt that whole grassroots approach, where, they build their programs from the youth level and they keep them all the way in their system. And now you're in a situation where you might lose a few of those kids because of this new rule. Yeah,
so I guess we'll keep an eye on that. But it definitely is a good talking point. A lot of media people have been talking about that. So we'll see how that plays out. But it is an interesting talking point, and we'll see if it affects our area a little bit. We don't have too many transfers around here, but we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that. And, it might be fun to interview a kid who says, I transferred because, the offense wasn't a good fit for me. So we'll see how that plays out. Something else that's in its early stages is Karlos Balderas' pro boxing career. And any boxing fans or, guys who follow news in the Central Coast have been following Karlos Balderas. And he had his pro debut Sunday night in LA, and he dominated the only round of the fight, getting a TKO after Thomas Smith refused to leave the corner after that first round. Balderas was clearly the superior fighter. His technique was great, his speed, he had some power. It was pretty much just a completely one-sided fight, literally a one-sided fight. Lorenzo, I just want to know what you think about it. A lot of people are getting excited about that. Do you think it's too soon to really get behind Karlos Balderas? Is it too early to take a lot from what he did? It's just one round so far into his pro career, or is there a lot to be excited about?
No, when you're Santa Maria and you see Karlos Balderas doing well, you have to get excited. You have to do your cartwheels, because, I mean, he's Santa Maria proud. He's putting the city on the map the same way Robin Ventura did, the same way Josh Parnot did. I mean, Balderas is at a point where he could walk inside a McDonald's here or Barbecue Land and people should go crazy because, he's Karlos Balderas and he has a good line of accomplishments. So, I mean, I'm on board with getting excited about this guy.
Yeah, anything he does is pretty much newsworthy, and that was great to see him start his pro career in such dominant fashion. And I think he's got a bright future ahead of him. He's got, with a good promoter, a good new up-and-coming promoter with Ringstar Sports. Hopefully they'll, guide his career in the right path, have him set up some good fights, not too many fights in a short span or something like that. Hopefully his career is managed the right way. You know how boxing can get with some of the more, noteworthy boxing promoters. But he's still so young. He's just 20 years old. So he started his pro career great. He beat a guy down that's about 9 years older than him, and Thomas Smith, a guy from Dallas, who is pretty much just a journeyman fighter. It's kind of seemed like they just found a guy that would be a perfect fit for Karlos to start his pro career against, and he went out there and just pretty much shut him down. I don't know if Smith landed any power punches, any clean punches, and came 3 minutes into the fight. Balderas did his thing, and Smith didn't want anything to do with it after that. So it was pretty fun to watch. I know some boxing fans were probably a little let down. They were, hoping for a 6-round bout. That's what it was supposed to be, but just 3 minutes in, one round, Balderas took care of business, and now it's on to his next fight. We'll see, where he's going to fight next. That was in LA. Maybe sometime he'll be in Vegas. Maybe he'll come over here to Santa Ynez. Who knows what's next for him, but his future is certainly going to be bright. And I think it's really justified to be excited about a guy like Karlos Balderas. He has it all, really. He has the looks, he has charm, he's well-spoken, and he definitely has all the tools to be a great boxer. So there's a lot of excitement around that, and Santa Maria loves its boxers. So that's going to be fun to see what's next for Karlos Balderas. Moving on to baseball, we've covered a lot of baseball, talking about Righetti, PAC 8 League baseball. Kind of the LPL, though, is your bread and butter. You got 2 LPL games earlier this week. You saw Cabrillo just dominate Orchid Academy 23-1 on Monday, and Santa Ynez skated past Lompoc on Tuesday. Kind of break down what the LPL baseball scene is looking like right now. That Lompoc Santa Ynez game was a first place showdown. What's kind of the shape of the LPL title chase right now?
Well, I'm sold on Santa Ynez. I mean, I know Coach Warren Dickey has produced some very good baseball teams in that area, but that Lompoc game really solidified the case that the Pirates are going to be the team to beat. I mean, they're very stout on defense, and they're very fundamentally sound. I mean, I saw guys calling shots. I saw guys communicating. When there's the opportunity to throw the double play, they took advantage of it, and they really, really limited Lompoc's power hitting. And that's very hard to do because Lompoc has a good line of power hitters over the years under the coach Jim Allen. Now, I mean, Cabrillo might be one of those teams that can challenge Santa Ynez, even though the record in league may not really reflect that. But John Osborne over the years has produced some very well-coached Cabrillo teams, and keep in mind, Cabrillo did beat Santa Ynez earlier this year, and the Pirates are looking at Cabrillo as still that mountain that they need to scale in order to get to that LPL threshold.
Yeah, I think we talked about that last week, because Cabrillo is that team that's still a little inconsistent. They showed a lot of consistency Monday with that 23-1 win, and reading your story, you covered that game, was interesting that Cole Osborne was the one that coached the team. John had a prior engagement. I think they're planning a wedding or something like that for his daughter. Yeah. And I remember Cole, I think he played shortstop for Cabrillo, when I first started working here, and it's weird to see him now coaching. So did it seem like Cole was doing well at the helm for Cabrillo?
It's funny you mentioned that, because I remember when Cole was in the dugout as a 6, 7-year-old, and he was helping his dad, but he handled himself well, considering the fact that he did admit that he was nervous, as anybody in that position, and plus the fact you're carrying the Osborne name, and that still has a heavy burden in Vandenberg Village. But to his credit, I mean, his team put up a season high with 23 runs, and I can't think of the last time Cabrillo had that kind of outburst, especially against an Orchid Academy team that they've actually had struggled with. I mean, there's been I've looked back at some of the past series history between Cabrillo and the Spartans, and a lot of their games were actually very close, with the exception of this game. So
yeah, looking at Orchid Academy this year, it's a pretty tough season, but they have had some success on the baseball diamond over the last couple of years. And you're right, they did give Cabrillo some trouble. So that 23-1 win is pretty impressive, even though Orchid Academy is struggling this year. They've shown that they can play ball. And I think it was a close game earlier this year against Cabrillo. So, that's a pretty impressive win. I don't know if the Conks will kind of really tighten things up and make a late season charge. I think Santa Ynez is going to have to lose some games, and I don't know if the schedule is shaping up where they are going to lose some games here late in the season. We talk about interim coaches, and Santa Maria had one last week with Joey Orozco. He filled in for their coach. Santa Maria's head coach had another school engagement, so Joey Orozco, who's a long-time youth baseball coach, got a win for Santa Maria when they beat Orchid Academy at Elks Field. So there have been some successes for interim coaches taking on Orchid Academy at Elks Field, and Santa Maria's kind of been an interesting team. They had a great week last week against Orchid Academy, and then Tuesday they lose to Temple, or I think it was Morro Bay actually, excuse me, in 8 innings, a late walk-off loss, and they play Morro Bay on Thursday. So that's going to be a huge game for Santa Maria. They got to regroup and just find some consistency. And from talking around to other people who follow them, other coaches, other players, it's kind of been on the defensive side. They can pretty much pitch and have some consistent at-bats, but they've been struggling a little bit defensively. So if they really shore that up here late in the season, they can make a push, get second place, maybe even challenge San Ynez if they drop a couple late games. We have seen San Ynez is susceptible to some losses that they did lose to Cabrillo. So it's going to be interesting to see if Santa Maria can make a late push. I think Santa Maria, Lompoc, Cabrillo, and San Ynez is pretty much the class of that LPL. So I don't know how it's going to shape up. But
I'll ask something about Santa Maria. It's like you mentioned the defensive play of the Saints. Well, I've noticed too that Santa Maria, when it's on its game, from an offensive standpoint, they could put up a lot of runs, as many as 17 runs. But when they're bad, they could barely get to 2. And I mean, in this particular case against Morro Bay, I mean, granted we weren't there, but we can tell that they were very off at the bat.
Yeah. We will have some coverage of Santa Maria later this week. They host Morro Bay on Thursday, and Santa Maria softball hosts Lompoc softball on Thursday as well. It's going to be a fun doubleheader at Santa Maria. So if you got nothing to do on Thursday of this week, head out to Santa Maria High School, catch some baseball, and then you can walk over to the parking lot, catch some softball. Those are pretty big games. Santa Maria softball team is played pretty well this year. Lompoc's down, so that could be a big win for Saints on the softball field, and Santa Maria's baseball team has to bounce back against Morro Bay at home on Thursday. So swing by Santa Maria High School if you want to catch some action on the diamond, and we'll have some coverage on those games in Friday's Santa Maria Times. But that's all we got for this week's show. Thank you guys for tuning into another edition of 805 Sports Talk.